everybody. So what I'm filming today is one of my favorite recipes. What I want to do with this channel is do a whole series of some of my favorite recipes, and they'll be more like fit foods, stuff that you could eat if you were cutting or dieting, or things that you could include in your diet if you just wanted to try to eat a little bit healthier. So today I'm doing chicken chili. I got this recipe from the website Skinny Taste, I believe, so I'll put that down below. I've changed it a little bit over the years, so now I add a full red pepper, and I have, hey, out of the kitchen, out of the kitchen. Sorry about that. So yeah, I've changed the recipe a little bit over the years, and I'll include the full macros for this whole dish. I'll include the servings. I'll include all of the amounts of the seasonings, the amount of the chicken I use, because I measure it each time to make it precise for when I track it. Whatever you guys want to see, the goal of this is to do, like I said, mostly fit foods, but I also want to include some fun dishes. I want to include some desserts and some cheat meals and stuff like that, because I don't want it to just be the same boring healthy food every time, and I don't think this will be boring. The point of this is to do recipes that are a little bit different than the norm for cutting. So on Instagram, you always see chicken and brown rice and broccoli, or turkey and brown rice and broccoli, or rice and asparagus and just grilled chicken. And as healthy as that is, and as useful as that is for cutting, because it is useful, and I have eaten like that, and I do eat like that if I need to, if I have a specific goal and I have only a certain amount of time to get there, then yeah, sure, I will eat very clean, as some people say. But if I'm just trying to, incorporate healthy recipes in my life, or if I'm just trying to slowly cut, these are the type of things that I'll eat. These are my favorite recipes. So like I said, I wanted to share them with you guys. I know you guys can go on Tasty or something like that for quick recipes, but I'm hoping that this series will be useful, mostly healthy foods, creative stuff, and then the occasional cheat meal. So with all that said, let's get started. The first thing I do is I get all of my seasonings out, because it makes it so much easier. You have to mix them up in a bowl first anyway, so just having everything out in front of you, you just kind of quick, easy go. I mix it in a bowl. I live in a house full of cats that run me, so I'm sorry. Hey, out of the kitchen, out of the kitchen. Okay, also, I did not wake up like this. I am just lazy as shit, and it's really hot outside, so I'm sorry for my attire. So the first thing I do is I get my pepper in, and this calls for just a half teaspoon of pepper. So I have my half teaspoon right here. None of this has to be perfect, especially if you're going to add more or less chicken to the chili. You can kind of play with things, like if you like more garlic, or if you want more pepper, if you want more salt or less salt. Quit. If you want more salt or less salt or whatever, you can adjust things as you go. So the next thing it calls for is salt, and it calls for a teaspoon of salt, and I try to stay pretty close to that. Even if I want more chicken, I don't like it too salty, and I feel like it's pretty flavorful already. So we got salt. Then I will do the cumin, and I have organic, and not for any reason. I think this was the only brand that was in when I went to buy it, so your seasonings, they don't have to be fancy, but whatever. 1.5 tablespoons for this. So this is one of the largest amounts, and as you can see, my tablespoon isn't just gonna fit in there. So for this one, I'm gonna do it over the cutting board, just so I don't accidentally spill too much, because I don't want it to be crazy overpowering. And again, if I don't get a perfect tablespoon when I'm pouring this, it's no big deal, This doesn't have to be perfect. Shit, what was I doing? Oh yeah, and I don't even have a half tablespoon measurement. Don't jump up here. 1 second. So if you have cats that jump on everything and want to run the house, hey! These squirt bottles are really useful, so I'm just gonna keep it up here because I don't want Gigi to mess with any of this. So anyway, back to the cumin. I just did 1 tablespoon. I'm just gonna estimate another ½ tablespoon and call that a day. So the next ingredient, chili powder, and again, it's not chili powder. I didn't get chili powder out. Okay. 1½ tablespoons of chili powder. So the same amount as the cumin, 1½ tablespoons. This one, it's a bigger bottle, so it'll be easier just to scoop this out and to make it a little bit more exact. And now, garlic powder. So this one is a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And just gonna pop this off. I do have a 1/4 teaspoon measurement, so that's nice. I like to overfill it just a little bit. Oh, I'm so shaky. You can't see shit. Okay, I like to overfill it a little bit because I really like the garlic flavor, and I usually do more chicken for this recipe than it calls for. So you just kind of learn these things, you go with the flow. Don't do it, Gigi. Okay, and then after you've done the garlic powder, you're gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. This recipe calls for fresh onions, so with this one, I get it pretty close to perfect. I don't worry too much about going over because we're already gonna have that onion flavor. The next ingredient is dried oregano. I use, can you see it? I use the Mexican oregano because this is supposed to be like a taco chili, so that's why I use that one. I have regular oregano as well, but whatever. This one again is a 1/4 teaspoon. And then the last, did I do salt? I did salt, okay. The last ingredient is paprika. And for the paprika, it'll be a 1/2 teaspoon. I hope I'm saying all this right. I'll check when I edit. Okay, now that we have all of the seasonings, you can kind of see it's nice, pretty mixture of color. I just kind of mix it up in the bowl here. I'm gonna set it aside because I don't need it right now. I'm not gonna need it until I get everything in the crock pot. I don't think I mentioned this is a crock pot recipe. And that's another thing I like about this is that I can put all this in before bed, or you know, put all this in the morning and then go to the gym, come back later, and it's ready to go. This isn't something I have to sit and watch and cook and stir and flip and whatever. Kind of just do it and leave it, and it's easy. So I'm going to clean off the cutting board real quick because I did get some seasonings on it when I was doing all of this mess. So I'm gonna wash it real quick. I'm gonna cut up this red pepper, and this is one of the things that it doesn't call for because you do use canned tomatoes with chilies, but I love to add in red pepper. I love peppers, and this is a way that you can add in some more veggies to this recipe. Okay, so I just took out the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse this out and wash it, and then I'll chop it up. So I'm just going to start chopping it up. I like bigger chunks in my chili, so if you want to like dice it, or if you want to just take this out all together, you know, like that's up to you, but it's something I enjoy. Clearly I'm not the best. I am not a chef. These are all just things that I have learned in my fitness journey, I guess. I've always enjoyed cooking. I was raised by both sets of grandparents, maternal and paternal, and both of my grandmas love cooking. So growing up, we always, like my siblings and I always ate good. There was always good food at holidays, good food every night. Like it was the type of house where like you sat down every night as a family and ate together. So that was really nice, and it taught me a lot growing up. And so when I became an adult and I moved out and I was living on my own, it was something I wanted to continue, was to eat good, cook my own meals, that whole thing. As you can see, I now have chunks. They're not all uniform in size, but kind of get the idea. I like my chunks bigger. So that's good right now. So now I'm going to cut up the onion, and the recipe calls for 1 small white onion, I believe, but I already had half of an onion in my fridge, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the rest of this. Cutting onions and crying, or if it's like something that really annoys you, I did hear in the past that rinsing off the onion, like maybe cutting it into fourths or so and then rinsing it off, helps with that. I think I tried it once and it did help, but it's never really bothered me that much to where I want to do it every time. But if you struggle with it and you're like, damn, I hate cutting onions, it's so terrible, like every time your eyes water like crazy, you can try cutting it in half, or cutting it in thirds and then rinsing it under some cold water and seeing if that helps. Also, if you do have a food chopper and you don't want to chop all this by hand, like by all means, like food chop it up. You don't have to do any of this chopping by hand if you don't want. Also, another thing that I don't think I mentioned when I was talking about the seasonings, the recipe on the site does say that, if you want to do, actually, I think I have one. Okay. So if you have one of these and you would prefer just to do a packet rather than making your own seasoning, the recipe on the site does include that, and I think you just have to add like some amount of cumin to it. Okay, so my camera died, and while I was charging it, I went ahead and put away all the seasonings, and I got out all of the canned things that will be going in. So we're gonna be using 1 can of black beans, 15.5 ounce, so I use this brand. 1 can of red kidney beans, 15.5 ounces, same brand. 2 cans of diced tomatoes with green chilies, these are 10 ounces. So I use the HEB brand, which is a local, a Texas grocery store. And then 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. And then it also calls for 1 4-ounce can of chopped green chilies, but I don't have that right now, so I just asked my roommate if he could pick it up on his way home from work. I haven't heard back from him, but if not, it's not a big deal. I'll put all this in there and then I can always add it to it last, not a big deal. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open up all these cans. You want to drain both of your beans, so open them, drain them. That might take a minute, get everything else opened, and then I will be back. So it doesn't matter what you start with, you just start pouring everything in there. You're gonna add everything you chopped, everything in the cans, and then you're gonna add the seasonings as well, and you're gonna mix it really well before adding the chicken. Chilies, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the chicken, and I like to measure it out. Again, like I said, I like to know exactly how much chicken I'm putting in here so that I can track it a little bit easier. So what you just do is you take the amount of chicken that you use. The recipe calls for 3 chicken breasts, or about 24 ounces, and then you kind of just nestle it into this mixture, and I'll show you guys what it looks like here in a second. But yeah, you just nestle it in there, and then I like to check on it maybe like after an hour, hour and a half. I like to look at it, maybe mix it up a bit, put some more of this mixture on top of the chicken. And then once it's done cooking, whether you cook it on high or you cook it on low, you want to start shredding it. So you'll take 2 forks. You can either take the chicken breast out, shred it in a bowl or on a plate, and then put it back in, or you can try to shred it in the crock pot. I think it's a little bit more difficult to shred it in the crock pot because it'll get real juicy like a chili, and it it's a little difficult to find all the chicken, so you might shred the top and then you've got big chunks of chicken breast at the bottom and you're trying to dig through it and it's hot. So I think it's a little bit easier just to remove the big pieces of chicken breast if it hasn't broken up and shred it on the side and then throw it all back in there. This is everything that's gonna go in it minus the chicken and the chilies. So I mixed the seasoning in, mixed everything up really well. I've got the onions, the bell pepper, and everything that was in the can. I just got the chopped green chilies from my roommate, so I went ahead and mixed them in here. Well, again, it was 4 ounces of chopped green chilies. Now I'm gonna go ahead and measure out the chicken breast. I've got about 4. This recipe calls for 3 or 24 ounces, and these chicken breasts are kind of small, so I'm just gonna measure them out here, see about how much I have, and then I'll nestle it into the chili and then start cooking it. So as soon as I get this measured out and put into the crock pot, I'll show you guys how it looks and how I arrange them. I have the final product here. I ended up using about 33 ounces of chicken breast, which is a little bit more than not only what the recipe calls for, but also what I usually use. So I might end up going in about halfway through and adding either another can of tomato sauce or a can of diced tomatoes. So not sure about that yet. I will see once it gets closer. And then what I do is I cook this on high for about 4 hours, and then about 30 minutes to the end or so, I'll go in, like I said, and I'll shred it all up and I'll see how it looks and let it cook a little bit longer. But let me show you guys what it looks like in the crock pot right now. So this is how it looks with the chicken inside. Like I said, I nestled it in there. I pretty much took the chicken breast and like just dug it in there so that it would be covered by the chili. So that's 4 chicken breast in there in this pot. Okay, so that's all the crock pot, chicken, chili, taco, whatever. That's all that there is to it. I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook, go to the gym, have another meal, and then once this is done and everything is shredded, I'll go ahead and show you guys what it looks like, and I'll show you guys in a bowl. I usually top it with some fresh cilantro and then some cheese and then like sour cream if you want, so it's really good. But I'm gonna let this cook, and then once it's done, I'll show you guys. So I'll see you guys soon. Okay, so that was the final product of the crock-pot chicken taco chili. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of chicken in there, so if you don't want that much chicken or if you want to add more beans, again, this is completely customizable, however you like it, however you want to eat it. But yeah, that is it. If you guys want to see something else, something specific, please let me know. I'm going to continue on with some of my favorite recipes, and I'm going to try to include some baking and some cheat meals. But for now, that's it. Thanks for watching.